A very warm welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us on this edition of K24 Inside Business, the last word in business. My name is Sarah Adam. Later in the hour, we'll have a discussion on Africa financial market. Since the market report was released by ABSA yesterday, we'll have that discussion later in the hour. But for now, let's take a look at what is making headlines in the world of business. Kenya ranked 56th on World Bank 2020 Ease of Doing Business. Lamu leaders call for audit on employment criteria for LAPSET. And Mayo SGR Tamis inaccessible due to poor infrastructure. Now to our top business story. The World Bank report on the ease of doing business shows that the country has improved the business environment, going up 5 positions from position 61 in 2019 to position 56 this year. The report, which looks at the ease of setting up shop in a particular jurisdiction, also features the competitiveness of the business environment in the 190 countries that are ranked each year as a way of pointing investors towards the right economies to invest. The Ease of Doing Business Index ranks countries against each other based on how the regulatory environment is conducive to business operation, stronger protection of property rights where economies with a high rank of 1 to 20 have similar and friendlier regulations for businesses. The improved ranking coming in the wake of continued firing by companies operating in Kenya, rendering a significant number of eligible youth jobless, with the latest company to close shop being Finlays, which is expected to send home at least 1,000 employees. Now, moving on from that, Kenya's monetary policy is back in the spotlight after a new report showed that the country's foreign investment attraction ranking has stagnated comparative to East Africa's peer amid concerns about rigidity in currency. The ABSA Africa Financial Markets Index 2019 showed that Kenya retained position 3 with a score of 65 out of 100 points, placing it below leader South Africa and second placed Mauritius, which added 13 points to hit 75 points. Linda Koskei with this report.
A review of the ranking showed Kenya's woes is largely attributed to low sensitivity of its currency to market fundamentals, potentially pointing to interventions on the currency position by the central bank. And while Kenya improved its points in 5 of the 6 pillars used in the ranking, the attractiveness of market lost 28 points in access of foreign exchange pillar to close with 65 points. This saw it drop from last year's first position in this pillar to the 5th, beaten by South Africa, Egypt, Uganda and Rwanda.
We've seen in the 3 years that we run the index is that across all countries, scores are getting higher, that markets are getting more open and transparent and accessible.
The 2019 report cited last year's move by International Monetary Fund IMF to reclassify the Kenyan shilling from floating to other managed arrangement to reflect the currency's limited movement due to periodic intervention by Central Bank of Kenya.
That there will be movements within these prices, but we look forward to actually launching more products working both with the CMA and the NSE, because I think we need a broader array of investment products rather than just either stocks or government securities.
Meanwhile, CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge disputed the assessment, arguing that he only intervenes in the foreign exchange markets to counter volatility and that the IMF exaggerated the shilling's overvaluation. The shilling has been one of the best performing African currencies and has been stable against the dollar, which climbed against most African currencies during the second half of the year. Linda Koskei, K24 Business.
Now, Kenya is now ranked 3rd most attractive financial market in Africa after South Africa and Botswana, buoyed by stronger policies and a host of newly launched products. A new survey shows the country jumped 2 places from position 5 in 2017, according to ABSA Africa Financial Markets Index 2018. Only Kenya, Morocco, and the Seychelles improved their scores most over the last year, particularly in terms of openness to foreign exchange, according to the report. Joining us to discuss this is Anthony Kirui, Head of Markets at Barclays Bank. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And what criteria did you use to come to this report, to the conclusion that actually Kenya has been ranked third most attractive?
So thank you once again for inviting me. The criteria that the report uses is 6 pillars, which it looks at for across the different markets we assess. The pillars are principally designed to assess the market's depth, the sophistication of local investors, the tax environment, the legal environment, the adoption of master agreements and the enforceability of those master agreements, and the level of activity in our capital markets.
All right, and in terms of even adjustment, what do you think Kenya can adjust to reach position 1?
So one of the key pillars for us is market depth that we look at. And in this area, we see that Kenya's equity turnover stands at about 6% of market capitalization. Whereas when we look at some of the other competitors like South Africa, which leads this table, it's currently at about 33%. So the actions and efforts that are being taken by the NSE, CMA, geared towards supporting turnover in the equities market, such as the introduction of the new AFS system and platform that allows intraday transactions to take place, are key to driving that turnover. On the bond side, we see as a percentage of outstanding issuance, about 17.5% is the turnover for Kenya, compared to South Africa at about 191%. And Nigeria at about 58%. Again, any actions towards supporting the growth in turnover in these key markets will help us move up in the ranking.
All right, and in terms of interest rate cap, which has been the conversation and has been very key, yes, with the president sending it back to Parliament for repealing, do you think it has affected Kenya's ranking?
So I think in terms of market opportunity, which is one of the pillars that we look at, economic growth is certainly key. Kenya has still done well. I mean, 2018 economic growth stood at 6.3%, which is a very strong performance for any country on the globe. But in terms of supporting the country's continued growth, and indeed, as the president highlighted in his memo, credit growth remains key. And expanding credit growth within our economy to support economic growth. And I believe he highlighted access to credit to SMEs and medium-sized enterprises as being key to supporting economic growth. So certainly that will contribute favorably towards our performance on the index.
And in terms of financial inclusion, do you think we're doing enough as a country?
I think Kenya has done well because we've been quick to adopt a lot of the fintech aspects in terms of ability through mobile banking, etc., to win and capture a larger portion of the population. So from that perspective, it's something that I believe as a nation we're doing well. Which feeds into the capital markets. So, for example, Kiba, which is an initiative that the National Treasury, together with the central bank, are able to drive, which was a first on the continent, a first globally, which allows local investors, retail investors, to access the capital markets through the comfort of their mobile phones. I think as we exploit these capabilities as a country, it certainly helps to support our performance.
Okay, and in terms of Kiba, it's not doing so well compared to the first time it was launched. What do you think can be done in terms of actually ensuring that people take opportunity of investing in this particular bond?
I think it's important to appreciate it's relatively new, and it's a case of, you know, those who adopt early and those who need to be more comfortable with how it works and become more familiar with it. I do believe in time, as more issuances are made, more and more people will participate and become familiar with its workings. I think it still remains an excellent idea. and creates a lot of opportunities for our retail investors to access the capital markets.
Okay, as much as Kenya has been ranked the third most attractive financial market in the country,
Yes.
we're still seeing a lot of closure of, from international brands or anybody setting up shop in the country, be it local or
Yes.
international. Was this part of did you use any of these particular criteria to actually come up with this report?
Not so much. I think, you know, to some extent from a perspective of market opportunity, it may have an impact, but really the report is concerned with what are the policies and what are the actions we can take to deepen our capital markets, which in turn supports our economic growth. So when I talk about how do we grow turnover in the equities market, encourage local investor participation, retail participation, what are some of the actions that the NSE can take? What are the documentation and the legal environment, tax environment that goes towards supporting businesses, enterprises within Kenya to be successful and to succeed. Those are the things that the index looks at, and in turn it will have an effect on the attractiveness of our economy and our overall competitiveness.
Okay, and the investors at the Nairobi Securities Exchange also have been leaving the bourse for the better part of this month and last month. What do you think is the reason for this? And if what can, let me say, CMA, even Nairobi Securities Exchange, do to ensure that they woo investors to invest at their bourse?
So I think that perhaps starting with the last question, which I think will address the first, is the actions that have taken around securities borrowing and lending, which is supported by this new ATS platform, are geared very much to improving liquidity in the market, improving investor participation, the ability to short sell securities, which is what the securities and borrowing arrangements will allow, will actually help to deepen that activity, increase turnover, and I think these things are key to driving participation. They also need to appreciate that although overall holdings are majority held by local investors, the actual turnover in the market is heavily driven by offshore investors, and they may be driven by other views broader than just looking at local factors. They look at what are the opportunities globally, and that affects their portfolio allocations.
All right, and just before I let you go, the transition from Barclays to ABSA,
Yes.
when will it fully be?
Complete.
We know it's complete, yeah, we know
Correct.
ABSA, Barclays is completely out and it's ABSA.
So we have until June next year to complete the full transition from Barclays to our new brand ABSA. There are a number of countries that have already transitioned across the continent, such as Uganda and Mozambique. So you can expect that Kenya next year, by mid next year, will have fully transitioned to ABSA.
All right, and Barclays is known to be a high-end bank that compared to Equity, KCB Bank, banks that you target high-end market.
Yes.
How will you be able to target actually to get local Mwananchi to actually accept or be part of Barclays Bank?
I think we've already started that in many ways. We've had our Wezesha initiative, which we've been driving across the country, and has been geared towards promoting our SME offering to our clients, existing and prospective clients. We're very passionate about supporting the medium-sized enterprises. You need to also appreciate that ABSA has also come from a background where it's a very strong bank in as far as supporting medium-sized enterprises. The agricultural sector, which is a major sector in South Africa, is an area of strength for ABSA. So for us, our passion in moving to ABSA is to become a Pan-African bank, but to also become a very relevant local bank. And these are some of the capabilities that we believe ABSA will also allow us to deliver to Kenyans.
Okay, thank you very much. Anthony
you.
Kirui is the head of markets at Barclays Bank. Now moving on, an Alliance of Agriculture Growers organization has announced its support for proposed government legislation for the approval and use of pesticides. The regulation seeks to address Kenya's Pesticide Control Act, which prevents any pesticide from being sold in Kenya. Linda Koskei with this report.
In September this year, members of parliament called for urgent withdrawal of harmful pesticides from the market, expressing fear that most of them contain harmful chemicals that pose danger to health and the environment. In the petition, the members of parliament wanted the government to immediately ban all products on the Kenyan market classified as carcinogenic, mutagenic, endocrine disruptors, neurotoxic, and many others which show clear effects on the reproductive health.
These regimes require extensive health and environmental testing to approve a pesticide. So there are quite a lot of studies that are generated and risk evaluation is done. So setting up a requirement that a pesticide has to have been approved in the US or similar puts a first level of defense for Kenyans, for Kenya as a country and Kenyans as with its own people.
We are happy that the regulation is going through a review, and this is bringing together the national government and the county governments on the same table in terms of the review so that we can enhance the extension services and ensure that those services can reach to every grower.
And now the Agrochemicals Association of Kenya, AAK, Fresh Produce Consortium, FPC, Cereal Growers Association and Veterinary Input Suppliers Association of Kenya announced their support for the updating of the pesticide control regime, which they termed as the most rigorous in Africa.
The constitution was promulgated, agriculture was devolved, so it triggered for us to relook at how the authorities to look at and the stakeholders to look at how it's going to fit into the new structure of devolution.
However, according to the CEO of Fresh Produce Consortium, Okisegere Ojepet, pesticides are critical to food production, with fall armyworm last year destroying 70% of maize production in the absence of pesticides regime. Speaker Justin Muturi committed the petition to the Departmental Committee on Health, which is expected to conduct an inquiry and report back to the House in the next 60 days. Linda Koskei, K24 Business.
Thank you very much, Linda Koskei, for that report. Now, moving on, Laikipia Governor Nderuti Murithi met with members of the Nyahururu business community to plan implementation of key priority projects in the town. He said the expansion of various markets for the small-scale traders and completion of Nyahururu Bypass Road to ease traffic congestion in the town will feature in the development plan. Caroline Jenga with more details.
Foreign investors. The highlight of the plan was the inception of a data set containing key indicators on all sectors of the county's economy. This has made it easier for investors who need quick access to data to make investment decisions. Laikipia Governor Nderuti Gachagua, who met the Nyahururu business community, expressed the importance of having policies that support investments. He said inclusivity is key in achieving county development plan, adding that there are various projects that have been rolled out that require stakeholders' input. He noted that planning of the town was important as it would aid his government and the private sector in implementing and finalizing projects within the town.
And the reason we are meeting is to reimagine Nyahururu. We want to look at the Nyahururu of 2030, the Nyahururu of 2040, the Nyahururu of 2050, and to make sure that we are planning our town properly so that when we are working as government, but also as private sector, we are working according to a plan.
The governor said that Nyahururu town was growing at a fast pace, hence making it essential to plan out projects to ease service delivery.
Every major road into and out of Nyahururu, you will see that the character of a town is spreading out, and we need to look at planning those areas better so that we are able to provide services.
Among the immediate projects is the construction of working spaces for the small traders who are forced to trade by the roadside, and also the completion of the Nyahururu Bypass Road to ease traffic congestion in the town.
This year and last year, we were able to do quite a number of roads in the central business district so that businesses can be able to work properly. We are now stepping into the residential areas like Manguo, like Minor Village, like Corsite.
The county boss also announced plans to construct sewer lines within the estates to curtail pollution. Caroline Jenga for Inside Business.
Now, the Ministry of Tourism has pledged to address human-wildlife conflicts in wildlife conservancies across the country through the implementation of the Wildlife Act 2013. According to the Tourism Chief Administrative Secretary Joseph Boynet, human-wildlife conflict is a threat to conservation efforts and has effects on the tourism industry. Marcy Milanoi tells us more.
According to the Ministry of Tourism, CS Najib Balala constituted a task force on implementation of the Wildlife Act on compensation chaired by CAS Boynet, which is currently meeting up with the stakeholders in a bid to have a lasting solution to this issue and is expected to report by the end of the year.
Moving on, we do apologize for that. We'll be able to fix that later. Now, moving on from that, a week after the Mahimahio SGR terminus was opened by President Uhuru Kenyatta, the terminus has remained closed and inaccessible to the travelers and area residents. The situation has been worsened by ongoing rains and the poor road infrastructure that connects the terminus to the nearby Mahimahio Narok Road. Caroline Jenga with this report. Able to give you that report in our subsequent bulletin, but for now, moving on, residents of Salga in Nakuru have called on the National Environment Management Authority to shut down a flower farm in the area which has been accused of polluting Rongai River. African Bloom Flower Company, which lies along the water source in the area, is said to be secretly releasing effluent and chemicals to the river at night. The river serves Rongai area all the way to Baringo County. Marcy Milanoi tells us more.
The alleged chemical grain in color was visible flowing downstream, which residents rely on for irrigation, cleaning, cooking, among other activities, leaving a cloud of fear of negative side effects. Jared Achoki, a farmer in the area, said at first they had ignored the green substances flowing in the river. However, it became more suspicious after they started itching immediately after bathing with the water.
Hii maji tangu juzi imekuwa green. Nimeona ni kama chemicals kutoka kwa kampuni ambayo iko karibu na sisi, ambayo hata ukioga unapata unajikuna sana. Sasa kuna hatari, tunaomba kama serikali mtusaidie ili muweze kufuatilia mambo na hii maji.
The residents have now called on the government to launch investigations into the flower company, adding that they have suffered since the release of the chemicals. The flower company is said to have modified some sort of a fertilizer dam which has been overflowing since the rains began flowing through to the river. The residents have now raised concerns over their health due to the consumption of chemicals from the water.
Hiyo sasa ikikuja na hiyo mbolea, unajua hiyo mbolea wanasafisha hiyo tripla na kitu inaitwa kama sulfuric acid ya kusafisha hiyo, kama inakaa kama chiki, na hiyo chiki ikimwaika inakuja kwa mto, na unajua chiki ukikula si ni amfu kwa binadamu.
Maji imekuwa machafu, haitusaidii, tunaumia. Ninaona ni kama tutapoteza watoto, ni kama wanawachilia usiku ama hizo damu zao zimejaa, sasa ziko overload.
Watu wa maeneo haya wanatumia maji hii kwa kukunywa, wanatumia maji hii hata kuweza kuosha mboga, hata mifugo inatumia maji hii.
Having farmed in the area for more than 6 years, Okiru said they risk being affected health-wise, adding that the company should at least come up with methods on how to contain their chemicals. The residents have now called on the Ministry of Environment and the county government to ensure their lives are well guarded, as most depend on the river for their livelihoods.
Now it's time to take a look at how the shares are performing at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. We want to look at the top gainers and top losers of the day, the performance of different shares and where you can invest. Now, Home Africa is the top gainer and the price share is 55 shillings and the percentage change is at 7.84%. Sasini, the price share is at 16 shillings and 50 cents and the percentage change is at 7.49%. Then we have the Diamond Trust Bank, which has a share price of 119.25, and the percentage change is at 3.7%. These are the top gainers of the day: Home Africa, Sasini, and Diamond Trust Bank. Now let's look at the top losers of the day. Now the top losers, we have Crown Paints, and the price share is at 65 shillings and 25 cents, and the percentage change is at negative 9.38%. Housing Finance is at 6.6 price share, that is 6 shillings and 60 cents, and the percentage change is at negative 5.17%. And then we have NMG at 39.95 cents. That is the price share of this particular share, and the percentage change is a negative 4.54%. Now these are the top gainers and top losers of the day. Now you'll be looking at it and see where you can particularly invest your money in. Now we want to look at how the shilling is performing against other major currencies. Now the dollar has been rallying for 3 months consecutively at 103 shillings, and with the demonetization, still the dollar has the shilling has not been that weak. So we want to see how much is the shilling buying against these international currencies. Now the US dollar is at 103.41 buying and selling at 103.61 selling, and the sterling pound is at 133.33 buying and selling at 133.62. Then the euro is at 115.03 buying and selling at 115.28. Then we have the rand, that is at 7 shillings and 06 cents, and we have this. We still have it selling at 7 shillings and 08 cents. Then we have the Tanzanian shilling, which is our neighbor in East African, which is at 22 shillings and 15 cents, buying and selling at 22 shillings and 28 cents. Then we have lastly the Ugandan shillings, which is buying at 35 shillings and 75 cents and selling at 35 shillings and 92 cents. And that is how the Forex market is looking like. And that is how we wrap up Inside Business, the last word in business. My Sarah Adam. Up next is News Cut.